Just to give me one line, one Mike Silver line. Go.
So me and Peter are with Al Davis, right? We're with Al, and it's the three of us.
So good.
Keep going.
The part I love about this is he is the best impersonator of anyone in my life, and he just leaves me audio messages.
He's the best. He's
like
the best.
He can do anyone.
He'll always go, the other day I was in the car and we called Peter and it's like, hey, Peter. And he does Peter King to Peter King. Have you ever been in the car with Silver when he does Peter King to Peter?
I have
and he
not.
Goes, yes, Michael. It's a Wednesday. Scoop City presented by eBay. James Palmer with you. We have a big quarterback change in New York. What's next for Jaxson Dart and Russell Wilson? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe for Diana's sake, for my sake. That is Dianna Russini, senior NFL insider for The Athletic. How are you, friend?
I'm so good. I can't believe we're already at the end of September here.
This is.
Or at least getting close to it. I've got my wedding anniversary on Friday, so... Been trying to think of something nice to do. The Big Five.
Big Five.
Big Five.
This is a
big deal.
What are you
at, 13, 14? What are you at?
I don't even want to say it.
Is it more than that?
We're at 16, Diana. We're at 16. I got married at 11. Yeah.
Oh my.
Wild.
I was going to say, like,
is that legal?
What do you guys do out there in Colorado?
I don't know. We had a lot of fun.
What do you give for 5? Isn't it like paper?
Yeah, you're supposed to follow those rules.
No, I wonder what 5
follow
is.
Any of them.
No.
Do anything.
I'm happy if I get a card.
I know. I got a Phillies cake when we got married, and that was everything to me. That was just, it came out, a little Phillies hat. All my boys sang High Hopes. It was.
Thank you for the idea. There we go. Done. See, James, this is why this relationship works so well, because it's essentially, I'm married to you, I'm married to Kevin. It's all the same thing. You like the same things.
We do like the same things. Let's get some tickets to the bank and see these boys play in the postseason.
He's definitely listening right now going, yes.
Let's go. It's the best place in postseason baseball. I love it. Listen, coming up on the show, we have Ravens and Chiefs. Somebody coming out of that game is going to start the season, Diana, 1-3. That is brutal. Jaxson Dart, we're going to break him down top to bottom, what we're going to expect with him going against the Chargers, and also Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, what do we got going on with some injuries in Washington? That's a big deal. All right. So, Diana, what are we hearing? What are we hearing right now? You've been working the phones right up to the start of this show about what's happening with Jaxson Dart. On Monday, we saw Brian Daboll come out very non-committal, actually comments almost identical to when he benched Daniel Jones a year ago. So everybody's going, I think this is coming. And then he pulls the trigger. It is now Jaxson Dart. How did we get here?
Well, first of all, I want to say that we nailed the headline. Remember when we did this? We said, what is the headline going to be? Lights, camera, Jaxson. I think we actually said that, and it was in the Post. So shout out to the New York Post listening to us and stealing our headline ideas.
Thank you.
Look, I think we knew this was coming. I don't think anyone is considered to be some expert at football if they called this.
Chase has been saying that, though. He's been kind of talking like he's an expert at football for calling this. You're
actually right. It pains me to give that man any of his flowers, but he is so good at calling this stuff out. He did it all of last season. He's doing it now once again. This is why teams have asked Chase to be a coach on staffs, because he can see it. He gets it. He knows when the quarterbacks have it. He lives in the same neighborhood as Russell Wilson and had said they need to bench the guy. He sees them at pickup and his wife, and he still did not care. He was like, they need to play Jaxson Dart. So the Jaxson Dart era begins. And I do think it's a little wonky because Brian Daboll wasn't as clear as I think a lot of people expected him to be in his press conference, not as energetic about making the switch. It didn't sound the way an organization sounds when they think they're making the right move. That doesn't mean he doesn't believe it. Let's listen. Tell me what you hear here.
Yeah, I want to see it.
I met both with Russ yesterday and Jaxson privately, and Russ was nothing but a pro, which I would expect him to be. It's my decision. We're going with Jaxson. We're going to get him ready to play this week and the remainder of the season. He's going to do everything he can. Russ will be the backup. The conversations that I've had with these young men will be private. The details will be private. All I can tell you is we're going with Jaxson, and we're getting ready to play. So I'm not going to add too much to it. Those are private conversations. It's my decision, and we're going with Jaxson.
You think Brian drove into work on 208, Route 17, and practiced that in the mirror of like, how am I going to reveal this? Because I'm going to get asked. I've always thought that like they had to go through that in their head.
Yeah.
Especially in New York when, I mean, I saw a picture of the press surrounding him. I mean, there had to be 15 to 20 cameras on him because it's such a big story. Everyone's been waiting for this. But how do he sound to you?
I don't know what to say, really. It's interesting because also the conversation that ends up happening, and Dianna, you and I know this, is the head of PR comes up and we'll talk to you in the morning. All right, I think we should go about it like this. I think we need to be, very transparent, or we need to come out of the gate hot, or whatever way the public relations department wants to kind of present it. My opinion, honestly, would be like, I wouldn't come out of the gate firing. It's time. It's time for a new era. Jaxson Dart has checked every single box that we have put in front of him. He's exceeded our expectations, and it's now time. It's time for Jaxson Dart, and say it with some gusto. Like, I don't know if this is just reading his face. And again, this is me speculating. Is he said he made the decision, right? Himself. Is he worried that maybe Jackson's not ready? Did he not want to make this call this quickly? He was with Josh Allen where, was it Tyrod's injury allowed him to hit the field maybe sooner than they wanted him to, and he knew some of the things that him and Josh Allen went through there. I don't know. I was looking for a little more excitement. I know Chase probably was too.
Yeah. I think you can also make an argument that you don't want to set these expectations, and you also don't want to be disrespectful to Russell, right? He's been in the NFL for a long time. I do think a lot of his presence, even with the Giants organization, has been nothing but positive, despite the fact that we saw some awful play and some bad decision making.
Yes.
But they've enjoyed their time with Russell, and they've liked him and appreciated him.
Can't you do both these things at the same time? Can't you do both these things at the same time when you're up there?
Be excited about Jaxson, but be respectful to Russell. Yeah, I'm sure you can. I'm sure behind the closed doors, Brian is gassing up Jaxson Dart, and they're both fiery personalities. They have they both have the same sense of humor, from what I can gather. Like, they can kind of play around with each other. Dable's a big FaceTimer. Could see that. Poor guy probably has to wake up to Brian Dable's face on his phone in the mornings, getting him ready for this start.
Wake up.
Like, I don't know if I'm going I'm keeping this as level as possible. I'm keeping him as level as possible, and just preparing him for the most simple type of offense that we could possibly put together, knowing that we're on a journey together here. Yeah. And it's going to be a long season. The schedule's not great. The Chargers defense is going to probably confuse you a lot. They move around a lot. They show you a lot of different things, and they're going to feast on a rookie quarterback. I just think that that's how that is going to go.
Okay. I'm going to get into my Brian Dable here.
Okay.
And be Dabes. I'm going to say, more or less, this isn't the preseason. These defenses, this isn't the preseason, bro. Like, you might have had some success in the preseason. This is Jesse Minter. You need to find number 3 before the snap every play. Where is Derwin James? You need to find that man. You need to have some other checks. You need to trust that Andrew Thomas is going to protect your backside. And I'm glad he's there, because we're going to design everything to the right. And we're going to run RPOs, and we're going to run read options. Don't be afraid to use your athleticism. We have been dreadful on third down in the red zone. We need to focus and thrive there. But again, we're not going to overcomplicate it. And we're going to try to set you up best to succeed. But you are going to live at this facility this week. That's what I would say if I was Brian Dable. And
you're going to drive around when you do have to drive with Malik Neighbors. Like, you're literally just going to breathe the same air as him.
Shotgun, bro. We're going for slushies. Yeah.
Because I do wonder how much this changes the dynamic of the locker room. Malik Neighbors said to reporters after their loss to Kansas City, "We can't win." is very much Adrian Balboa, Rocky IV yelling from the top of the stairs. You can't win. It had that same oh boy, if you're saying that in week 3, you don't believe in your quarterback. You don't believe in maybe even your head coach. And maybe this had something to do with the change as well. Can Jaxson Dart give this offense some juice, some hope, some belief? Because what we've seen so far in September is not working. Now, the second part of this, and it's a long season. Certainly. I have a feeling we're going to go back to this conversation. How is Russell Wilson going to be as a backup, James? Right? He's done it before. Are you writing a Post-it so I don't forget to bring this up? First week in November?
Yeah, I'm putting a Post-it down.
When we see Jameis Winston all of a sudden is backup?
Yeah.
And this isn't a knock on Russ. It's just he's been a starter his whole life. He's the guy. What is he going to be like? And everything up until now has been fantastic from what I hear. But I do think it changes when you're not that guy. What does he bring to the organization? What does he bring to that room if it's going to be the Jaxson show?
That's something to monitor. Because my understanding has always been you brought in, and remember, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, before you knew you were going to get Jaxson Dart in the draft. You could have been head over heels with him, Dianna. You could have wanted him more than anything in the world. You don't know if you're going to get that player in the draft. You just don't know, right? So you needed to prepare yourself with, warm bodies in the quarterback room when you didn't get Stafford and you didn't get Aaron Rodgers. So you needed players. I find it interesting with the contract structure and where it's at. I fully expect Jameis to be the backup in 2026 to Jaxson Dart. And I think there's certain qualities that you need to have to be a backup quarterback. I think that's why some guys get this second career and later in their careers as a backup, and some don't. We had a long conversation with Jordan Rodriguez on this show about backup quarterbacks and the mentality you have to have and the way you have to go about your business. We'll see if that can be Russ.
And Jameis gets it. Jameis gets it more than any of them from the last few seasons, especially, and just even how he carries himself and how he gasses you up so well. But look, I've had other teams make this point to me, and look, I think Shane Bowen is trying his best there, but this defense is not good for the talent that they have. This is the moment where they step up, right? Like, you know how many DCs would be drooling over what this front looks like from a talent side, right? And we don't know all the minutia. We don't know all the things that are going inside. It just hasn't looked great the way it should be. So I'm interested to see if maybe the Jaxson stuff on the offensive side of the ball gets the other side of the ball stepping up, and we see a different version of the Giants. Yeah. Like this is just the space we're in now. It's just like a bottle of hope. Yes. And it's a lot to ask on a 22-year-old.
Yeah. Well, so oftentimes you get that spark, and it's sustaining it for the rest of the season is the thing that's a little more difficult than that initial spark sometimes you get with the youngster.
Putting your fantastic brain that has good recall, although I will say Mike Silver probably has a better one slightly. His recall's wild.
I was in... No, go ahead. Keep going.
It's really good. Can you just tell one quick, just to give me one line, one Mike Silver line, go.
So me and Peter are with Al Davis, right? We're with Al, and it's the three of us.
So good.
Keep going.
The part I love about this is he is the best impersonator of anyone in my life, and he just leaves me audio messages.
He's the best. He's the best.
He can do anyone.
He'll always go, the other day I was in the car and we called Peter and it's like, hey, Peter. And he does Peter King to Peter King. Have you ever been in the car with Silver when he does Peter King to Peter?
I have not. He goes,
yes, Michael.
I have been in some heated conversations in my home with my husband, and I will have a voicemail, an audio message from Silver sitting there. And you know when you have to read the situation, because I'm like, all right, we're fighting. Kevin and I are fighting right now. He doesn't want to hear a voice message from Silver telling me. There is nothing that can diffuse a fight in my house than a Mike Silver Peter King impression. Yeah. Like the second it plays, we start laughing. It actually is helping my marriage. Just do a Peter King. So listen, for those listening, we'll get him on the show to do it, and you'll go.
Peter King? Oh yeah.
Yeah. and you'll go, oh my God, this is so good. So look, I think to just put a bow on the Giants story with Jaxson Dart, we've had these conversations about organizations a million times in September and October, and they never end well. And they never end well in New York. I hope it does for their sake. I hope Jaxson Dart's the future. I just think this is always going to go back to what we saw in the offseason when John Mara had to make that decision, and that there was a very good chance that they were going to move on from Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, and they decided to stick with them. And they are now living with that. And so we'll see who will come out of this.
Yep. But the minute you make the right pick at the quarterback spot, all is forgiven. And the opinions on this quarterback are all over the map. They were in the draft process, and they were, as for Bo Nix, and they were for other quarterbacks. We'll see what ended up happening with Jaxson Dart. All right, speaking of young quarterbacks, Jayden Daniels. Are we going to see him, Dianna, or is he going to miss 2 weeks? Where are we at? I know it's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week, but also we're going to get to Terry McLaurin, because that is a scary Terry situation right now at the quad.
Yeah, this isn't great to be talking about Washington at the end of September here. We're talking about Jayden Daniels on the field today in a limited capacity. Dan Quinn saying he's doing everything he can. We talked about the knee situation a week ago when he missed practice last week, and it was a little bit of buildup, right? We thought maybe he'd be out there Friday. There was some competitiveness there. I think you and I both knew that the chances were very, very slim, and of course they were, and he didn't play. And the good news coming out of that was that it wasn't an MCL, so that means that he's able to move left and right. Like it was explained to me that that's the ligament that you move horizontally, so that's good.
That's good.
But this is great news that it's not something where he's going to need surgery or even something microscopic. The fact that he is not playing, though, here on a Wednesday is not a good sign to me. Now, look, they're playing the Atlanta Falcons. Marcus Mariota, if he were to get the start, obviously he spent some time there in Atlanta. He did a great job last week against his former college coach, Chip Kelly, and a decent Raiders defense. I know they have a firm belief that Marcus can do this. So, look, it's going to come down to weighing the option of, look, if he's not 100%, they may just put him on ice here for one more week.
I get it. Who says this sentence very often, Dianna? That Atlanta pass rush is no joke. Said nobody over the last 20 years, but they've been revamped, and I get it a little bit. I also think we've seen them run the ball a little bit better when they haven't had to rely on him, this young backfield. I think they've got, a little high hopes for it. I think Debo's kind of, increased his role, and it seems like. So, I think there's some things you're looking at and all of that. And with the skill guys around him, that's why we bring up Terry McLaurin as well. You hate to see these type of things, specifically when you miss that much time of training camp. But I always look at, when you got a lot of opinions you're trying to get, what are you trying to solve, or are you trying to get the right person to tell you what you want to hear? What's happening with his quad?
It's so true. It's like, it may not even be the right diagnosis, but just tell me the quad is okay.
Yeah, tell me what I want to hear.
Look, he hasn't missed a game since week 16 of the 2020 season, and going back to those negotiations, one of their points,
great point, right,
was he's healthy. And he has started 17 of the last games. 72 of the last games. 72 of the last games as a Washington Commander, right? So he has a clean bill of health usually. So the quad thing definitely is a red flag here, because this just doesn't happen. And of course, this is what the Commanders were worried about when you're on the other side of 30, of how do you keep your health? And look, you're right. You make a good point of when you're getting multiple opinions, is because you just want to figure out if maybe it isn't as serious as maybe one person has described it.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll keep an eye on this. This may be another scenario, though, where they play it safe against the Atlanta Falcons and think that maybe they can squeeze by this without Terry. Obviously, Marcus Mariota wants him out there, but if he's not 100%, it's not worth making that push.
I get it. He did not participate on Wednesday, so we'll see what ends up happening with Scary Terry. All right. What also is scary is when you're a Super Bowl contender, Dianna, and you start the season 1-2, and then you're facing another Super Bowl contender in week 4, who's also 1-2. So one of these two teams in the AFC that has legitimate Super Bowl aspirations, the Ravens and the Chiefs, will start the season at 1-3. Only one team since 1990 out of 252 teams that has started 1-3 has won the Super Bowl. Our good buddy Jeremy will tell you it's the Patriots, and he's very excited about that. But it's rare. Who are you more concerned about, the Ravens or the Chiefs heading into this game?
So this goes against what I normally say on this show, but I was thinking about it a little bit more. It is the Chiefs. Okay, first of all.
Hold on, let me just call Jason and just make sure he can hear everything you're saying right now.
Oh, but I'm sure he will call.
Go ahead.
Do you know sometimes Chase just calls me and goes, so what are you hearing? What do you got? I'm like, I'm not your personal insider. Like, I'm not here to just give you all the scoop, dude. What do you got?
Yeah, what do you got, bro? It's a give and take, by the way. It's not a take.
He actually does always have a lot of stuff. I'll give him that. I'll give him that, Chase. Shout out, Chase. We love you.
But he's not going to like this segment. Go ahead.
Ravens. Look, they lost to two really good teams in Buffalo and Detroit. The Chiefs, they lost to the Super Bowl champs, Eagles, and the Red Hot Chargers, who we're definitely going to see in the postseason and look completely different from a Charger team that we saw just a few years ago that weren't very scary. Now they're rolling. Then you look at their schedules for October, right? Jags, Lions, Raiders, Commanders for the Ravens. The Chiefs got the Texans, the Rams, the Bears, the Dolphins. Kind of equal schedules there. Like, it gets better for them, right? So that's good. But for me, it's the Chiefs only because we keep putting everything on Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy coming back. Everyone there keeps saying the same thing. Just chill. Our September is an extension of our preseason. We do not panic. We know what we look like when everyone's healthy and when everyone's done with your suspensions. Not laughing at it. That's just the reality when they get their guys back. But I just think that's putting a lot on them, right? When we've already seen them put a lot on Patrick, and I think it's been pretty decided that when you're a one-man show in the NFL, you don't win. You can't do it. We've seen Patrick be, we'll call it magical. Oh yeah. But usually Travis Kelce's part of that, right? And Travis is not the same. It's not the same juice he usually brings. So my concern is these two receivers returning better be able to step up to help for also an offensive line like Trey Smith, who hasn't been that great. Like it needs to improve. So my bigger concern is there. I am a little worried about the Ravens defense, but I'll let you take them if that's what you think you're concerned about.
Well, I agree with you. I think there is more concern if you lose this game if you're the Chiefs.
Okay.
Because of a couple things. The first one that jumps out at me is exactly what you mentioned about with the Chargers. I think the divisions are very different now. It used to be the cakewalk for the Chiefs in the Patrick Mahomes era. Now you have the Chargers at 3-0 in the division, 3-0 overall. You have the Broncos, who have lost on a last-second field goal now twice. So we know they're a very good team, and they always play the Chiefs very tough. And the Raiders are no pushover either. That's the division the Chiefs have. The Ravens have a Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals team. They have a quarterback-ish-less team in the Browns in their division. I don't want to be mean. I love Joe Flacco. But
I thought you were talking about the Steelers.
That's a good team, but doesn't really have a quarterback. Like the Browns are like, but I just look at the quarterbacks that I'm facing in my division. Yeah. And then you look at a Steelers team who we're still kind of curious what Aaron Rodgers is going to be like for the season with the Steelers defense that has not been historically what we've seen, dating back to the end of last season into this year. So I just think of like in a division we always talk about being so difficult. I think there's an easier path to win their division for the Ravens than there is for the Chiefs, starting 1-3. I also think the Ravens are having no problem scoring points. They're number one in the NFL in scoring. Like, you're right. The problem is they've given up more points than anybody else in football. But look at the offenses that they gave up those points to. Is that going to continue? They haven't stopped the run. I'm not sure the Chiefs run the ball that well. So, like, I just think the Ravens are in probably a better spot. I think the Chiefs, when they get fully healthy, are going to be a different team. They don't have an identity as an offense, Dianna. I think their identity is Rashee Rice. And I think they're waiting for that. And it's like, how can we hold on to this as long as possible? Can Patrick get us something and figure this out? I wanted to throw this out to you, though. Okay. My Twitter or my X has been exploding over the last 24 hours with people resurfacing these old Frank Clark interviews I used to do Do you remember me and Frank Clark, like after AFC title games? I do remember
those interviews.
His going
pretty,
like bananas, millions of views. They're crazy.
I don't know what you say to him, but I remember seeing those. Like,
I know, they were so awesome. I know he loved me for some reason. I love I love that he liked me so much. But he always found me on the field with my NFL Network microphone, and he would go bananas in front of me. But the reason I brought this up is, like, these old videos from when he played there in these championship games are getting retweeted like crazy. And you know what all the comments are?
What?
We need players like this back on our team. We need dogs like this back on our team. We need guys that will do anything to win back on our team. One of them said, now we're just, look at this. This is when I love the Chiefs. Now we're a bunch of Swifties. Like, these are the comments that are coming on old videos that are 3-4 years old. Like, Chiefs fans, it's fascinating that they think this team is like soft. It seems like that's the consensus on these retweets. What do you think?
I think it's because so much of the Chiefs that we discuss has nothing to do with football right now, because they have their tight end getting married to the biggest star on the planet. And, you know, a quarterback whose life outside of football gets a lot of attention on social media. And they did have a very quiet camp, right? They went down there, they did their thing. And it just, I don't know, we just didn't talk about them like we normally do. They're not, you know, we know that they're coming off the Super Bowl loss, but it was just like, well, they didn't look very good in the Super Bowl. They're probably not going to be that great, but they do have Patrick, and everyone's just kind of like, nah, on them. Yeah. And I get why fans feel that way, but I don't necessarily believe that's reflective of what this team is really like. You've spent tons of time around these guys. True. I have too. They're monsters, and they're competitive.
And the defense is playing fine. Like,
as long as Patrick, Travis, and Chris Jones are part of that team, it's never going to let its foot off the gas. Like, that's just not their makeup. Yeah. They're too committed to winning, and they want it too badly, despite what maybe you think is a distraction. And distraction is that's probably not even the right word. I just think for the Ravens, they lost that bite on the inside. You know, James, you know what else I was thinking? You know, remember last year, Dean Pease came in as like the advisor to the Ravens defense, and then they got good. Mm-hmm. And then this year they have Chuck Pagano, and he's not good. But I'm curious if maybe there's some conversations going on there. I'm not saying Dean Pease is the reason, but look, it's Dean Pease. Like,
no, they lost some girth in the middle of that defensive line. I mean, they're trying to find their way. You can run on them. I think they're built to play specific teams a little bit. Do
you notice Lamar's mouthpiece? Have you noticed that? Yeah. He wears the color of the team he's playing.
Yeah, and it's like spun, and it's weird. I don't know. But look at you. Color, game of colors. Real quick, before we're going to take a break, and we're going to have Dan Pompei with us on the show here. Did you see Caleb Williams getting 4 touchdown passes and free hot dogs galore in downtown Chicago? Did you see this?
Show me.
Like, just hot dogs galore downtown. This is the Wiener Circle right here. The line at the Wiener Circle is very long, thanks to one.
So they just gave out free hot dogs for every touch? Like, how does that
free hot essentially dogs? I think they threw 4 touchdowns. So they got free dogs out there. How do you like your hot dog?
Little sauerkraut, little mustard.
Okay.
That's it. You?
I like a Chicago dog, by the way.
Which is?
It's got the pickles on it. It's got the pepper on it. It's got the tomatoes on it. I'm down with that. But also, I'll take some caramelized onions and mustard. We'll dance with that too. I'm down. That always works.
Hot dog, underrated snack. We eat them on the beach a lot.
Oh, really?
Good beach snack. Yeah, there's down the shore in Jersey. There's a lot of hot dog stands at the top of the beaches. Smart, right?
There's not a lot of us around the country that know what down the shore means. We got Dan Pompei coming up next on Scoop City, presented by eBay. A couple of East Coasters right here. All right, welcome back to Scoop City, presented by eBay on a Wednesday. James Palmer, Dianna Russini with you once again. And Dianna, we have a very special guest. Somebody that when you jumped on before we started this segment, you just kind of lit up. That Dan Pompei from the Athletic is here. I mean, you look at you, you're smiling ear to ear.
So, there are some writers that I've been following for a really long time, and it's kind of like when you have a favorite show and the next episode's coming up, and you look forward to it all day. That's how I feel about Dan's articles. When I see on the app like Dan wrote something, it's like, yes, get a hot cup of coffee, and I'm going to sit on my couch and I'm going to rip through some of the great stuff that Dan does with all the incredible access you get, Dan. So I'm so excited for you to join Scoop City here today.
Yeah. Well, very kind of you, Diana. I'm a big admirer of yours and James, and I'm really happy to be talking with you.
Yeah, this is great. Mutual Admiration Society. I like this. We want to start off, Dan, with this article that we got a chance to read before it comes out on The Athletic tomorrow, I believe it will be, about John Abraham, one of the best pass rushers this league's ever seen. And I think you and I were talking before this a little bit. Oftentimes, we don't get a chance to glean into the personal lives and the humans and the people that we're cheering for on Sundays. And this is an unbelievable piece that you've written about John's life and the time that you've spent with him. Just kind of tell everybody how did you come up with wanting to tell a story about John and getting a chance to spend some time with him. And if there's one aspect of that conversation and what you got out of the piece is what?
Well, it started, I had a conversation with Charles Tillman. We were at the funeral for Virginia McCaskey. And he does a podcast, and he was telling me about his podcast and some of the different people he's interviewed. And I said, well, who's been some of the most interesting people you've talked to? And he said, John Abraham. And I said, really, what's so interesting about John Abraham? And he started to tell me about his life and what happened to him, especially after football. Now, he was a heck of a football player. I think he kind of gets lost a little bit because he never played on really great teams. He changed teams, going from the Jets to the Falcons to the Cardinals at the end, and really wasn't, in a high-profile stream like a lot of pass rushers are, but ended up 13th all-time in sacks. I think he's third all-time in forced fumbles. So had a hell of a career. I think was 5-time Pro Bowl player. So had a heck of a career. And then after his career, he ended up with a lot of issues, a lot of them from concussions, some from alcohol. And he really was in a bad way, was suicidal, mental health. And he's finally started to find himself after bottoming out. And it's an incredible journey that he's been on and is still on. And I think people will really enjoy learning about everything he's been through.
Yeah.
You do a lot of stories on people and you're able to get them to open up to you so well. And I'm always learning something new about whether it's an athlete, a coach, a general manager, anyone that you spend time with. For some reason, you always find something that no one else knows. What is it that you learn through this process when you're meeting with these people that have shared a lot of their lives, but then you're able to tap in? What skill set do you think you have that's getting them so comfortable?
Well, I don't know that I have anything special, but I appreciate you saying that. I think it's just basically curiosity and doggedness and being able to really spend time with someone and understand them and listen. I think a lot of times, myself included, listening is hard, right? Because when someone starts talking, or maybe they're going into a direction that we aren't interested in, we might talk over them or interrupt them. And I find that, if you just keep listening sometimes, or maybe if you gently direct or guide the conversation, you end up with something that you had no idea was there. And, it's, I think it's about investing time, both before a meeting with someone, during, and then after. You just have to be completely invested.
Yeah.
This is like a journalism class for us, Diana. I'm writing things down, honestly.
Notes over here. I'm like, listen, we're talking, Diana.
We're all always trying to get better and always trying to grow. And I think before we move on, Dan, that was one of my favorite parts personally of this piece is what John has done of late with therapy and helping his mental health and the different avenues he's taken to try to better himself now. And I think we so often write people off, and the effort is still there from John, what he's trying to do. And I thought that was a really that kind of touched me in that part of what he's trying to do. Everybody go read the piece. It's outstanding. But we do have to talk some football as well, and some guys that are still playing, and that's the Chicago Bears. And you still have a place there in Chicago. It's a big part of your heart. It's a big part of you. What did you see from Caleb Williams in this offense against Dallas that now makes you interested to see what against the Raiders this week?
Well, I think it was his best game as a pro and his most encouraging game. And The best part of it from his standpoint was he had a command, I think, of the offense. Really, the first time we've seen him have a command of the offense. And, that came through, I think, at the line of scrimmage, the way, there were no false starts. The plays got in quickly. After the snap, he had a command. He knew what he was doing with the ball for the most part. And, really paid off. Obviously, he was voted player of the week. Now, I think he had a lot of things going for him in that game. He had really good play design and play calling from Ben Johnson. He had protection like he's never had in the NFL. He wasn't sacked. He was playing against a compromised defense, that was injured and obviously still probably reeling from the departure of Micah. So, a lot of things. His defense helped him too. I mean, they came up with takeaways. Everything went right. So I think the challenge for Caleb is going to be two things. First, what's he going to do when everything doesn't go right? Because that's what he struggled with in the past. And that's what, every great quarterback has to overcome his circumstances. And the other thing is, can he do this consistently? Can he be consistent? I'm not saying necessarily throwing 4 touchdowns. I'm just saying in his processes, in his command, in his being comfortable with the offense and everything that's being asked of him. Without that, a quarterback doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah, and I think so much has been made of what this marriage would be between him and the head coach, just because we saw so much great offense and play calling from Ben Johnson. The question of, can he make that transition? Which I think we challenge a lot of head coaches that come from coordinator roles of can you do it? Can you be the CEO of this team? It's still only a month, but just from your experience in your eye, what do you make of Ben from where he's at now here at the end of September?
Well, it's a great question. And I think, it's a question we always ask of every coordinator that is promoted. A lot of times I think we see coordinators who are promoted who, they kind of Peter Principle out, right? That next level is too big for them. And it's really difficult to judge whether or not a coordinator has the capacity to become a head coach because it's a completely different job. They say, the biggest step a coach ever makes is from the front row of the meeting room to being in front of the room. And Ben Johnson, I think, really, he's been very, very impressive to me. I think beyond my expectations, and I had high expectations for him, knowing a little bit of how he operated, knowing him from his time in Detroit. And I think he really has shown exceptional leadership, command of the whole team. Messaging has been really on point, expectations of players. And then you go into obviously the things that you kind of knew about, the game management, the play calling, play design, all those things. So, yeah, he's shown a lot of potential. I think he's going to be a really good head coach.
Yeah, I love that you said that, Dan, about the messaging and about what you want to instill in your group. Because to me, when you talk to these guys that have, I don't want to say failed, you get fired for a variety of reasons, but guys that have been a first-time head coach and then they end up getting shown the door, you talk to these guys and they tell you, like, it was hard when I saw some things go bad to stick with what I really wanted to stick with, right? Certain things like, the motion and all this stuff he wants Caleb to do, you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself to go, no, we're going to stick with it, even if it's not bad, and not bail on it, stay with it. And I think Ben has those characteristics to stick to what he believes is best. And oftentimes that's hard when things aren't going exactly the way you want early on. I want to say a small nugget about the Raiders in this, because I heard this from somebody yesterday talking to people, and I wanted to let you two hear it and maybe have a thought on it. Ashton Jeanty, obviously everybody's talking about him and what he's what he was done and where he's been picked. Not having an outside threat has kind of impacted a little bit, I'm told, of where he's running the football. That offensive line obviously hasn't played extremely well. Nobody's really in Vegas thinking he's underachieving, but it's an interesting dynamic when I'm told your best receiving aspect of your offense is a tight end who also plays somewhat closer to the hashes in the middle of the field, which kind of clogs everything up when your offensive line is even struggling. For your star running back you took at the top of the draft. I thought that was kind of interesting nugget. I wanted to throw it in there. You're sitting in Tampa right now, Dan. Like this is a monster one coming up. I mean, we got 2 3-0 teams with the Bucs and the Eagles. Are you looking for somebody just to lay down as a speed bump in front of the tush push? Like, what is our eye on here when these two offenses that are doing it very differently square off on Sunday?
Billy, so boring, right,
yeah,
James?
They're so boring. Drew Brees hates them.
It's just watching paint dry, that kind of offense.
Winning,
so dull.
It's brutal. Winning 19 of 20 is just disgusting, apparently.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the Bucs can protect Baker and how they can run the ball against that front. Especially, there's a possibility that Tristan Wirfs returns, but still they're going to be without at least 2 starting offensive linemen, maybe 3 if Wirfs isn't ready. And then, how are they going to rearrange their offensive line even if Wirfs returns? Are they going to put him at left tackle and move Graham Barton back? Are they going to put Wirfs maybe back to right tackle, the position he previously played, leave Barton at left tackle because he's been playing pretty well there? And, they've got a backup guard or a guard in Ben Bredesen who's played okay at center. So, do they try to get the weakest link out of the line, or do they just move Wirfs back to the position that he's in? Either way, it's going to be a monumental challenge to go against, one of the best defensive fronts in football. Without that, the Bucs are going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
The Baker Mayfield conversation, I think there's so many layers to it, right? You have the big overlaying storyline of the revival of the quarterback that was kind of thrown away. Look at us. So we're watching Cleveland now. What would be great in Cleveland? Baker.
If they would have had a number 1 pick a bunch of years ago.
If only. And obviously we're seeing Daniel Jones now. And that story just never gets old to me. I just love watching. I think we all do, right? Just seeing there was talent there and they just needed the right coaches around them. And you're seeing Baker thrive and letting loose and having fun. But I don't know a lot of quarterbacks. And Dan, I'm curious just from your experience of getting to know so many of these guys. Baker's petty in a way I like. It's not petty where I'm annoyed by it. I admire it because it's like he holds a grudge and doesn't forget. It's like he has what was that from Mean Girls? It was a book of just all the things, the mean book.
You knew Dan was a big Mean Girls fan.
Yeah, I did. No, Dan led with that. Yeah. So Dan, does Baker remind you of any player that you've covered over the years? Or do you know, is there anyone that stands out to you that always just had a little bit of chip on them? And maybe that was kind of the secret sauce to making them so good at what they did?
Well, yeah, I think the competitiveness clearly is a part of who he is and what makes him great, right? And that's what you're talking about, that, pettiness or whatever. He there's a lot of players like that. I think sometimes they kind of keep that part of them quiet because they don't want to expose it. But I think, it's part of the mentality you see a lot of times with players who are drafted late. Amon-Ra St. Brown, for instance, keeps the list of all the receivers who were picked ahead of him. I think I always think about the undrafted free agent mentality of guys. Sometimes you see guys make it all the way to the Pro Football Hall of Fame who no one thought was good enough to play in the NFL. Why is that? Well, it might not always be because they were the most talented, center or safety or wide. You know what it is? It's because they wanted it more. They worked harder. They had this motivation, this superhuman motivation. Baker has got that. And I think without a doubt, he's better because of everything he's been through. He's better because, he failed or whatever you want to say in Cleveland and he got cut in Carolina. Those things were good for him. And now he gets in a situation in Tampa where he's got good coaches and really great wide receivers. And he's had a good offensive line when they're healthy, and they should even have a good running game too with Bucky Irving. So he's got everything going for him, and he's got everything he learned. He's got experience, and he's just at a level that he's never been at. And the other thing about Baker, and I think this was probably innate with him, he is a high-level leader. I don't know if there's a better quarterback leader, in my opinion, in the NFL than this guy. He just gets guys to follow him and on his bandwagon. And, I think some of that is, like I said, just who he is, maybe his upbringing, his EQ, and then some of it is the way he works and the way he treats people. And, that's one of the big reasons why he's having so much success.
I love it. Yeah, I remember having that conversation with Jason Light, Dan, when it's like you move from Brady and now we're going to be embedded with Baker, and we love what Baker's brought to the locker room. It's like, wow, you really love the change from Tom Brady running the room to Baker. This is fascinating, and they've embraced it, and it's great. I can't wait to watch the end of this one, you two, by the way, which the way the Bucs have been able to close out games has been unbelievable. And Dianna, you were bringing up a great point on Monday about how the Eagles have really found a way to just win, and in any spot almost find a way to win. So the way this thing ends will be outstanding. Make sure you check out Dan's article on John Abraham. It's outstanding. It's really, really good. Make sure you check it out on The Athletic. Dan, we love that we had you here. Appreciate you joining us so much on Scoop City. This will not be the last time. I'm making a declaration right now. Producers.
All right.
Producers.
My pleasure.
Producers, listen. Yes, thank you so much. Coming up on Scoop City, presented by eBay, we have Jacob Robinson telling us which 0-3 team should we be looking into and why, Dianna? We'll answer that question next. Welcome back to Scoop City, presented by eBay on a Wednesday. Dianna Russini, James Palmer, closing things out here. There are 6 teams, Dianna, that are 0-3. So Jacob Robinson has a question for us, as we often do with these gentlemen in the newsletter. Take it away, Jacob.
Hey, Dianna and James. It's Jacob back from the Scoop City newsletter. I want to talk about the 6 winless teams, more specifically, one of the 6 winless teams. The Houston Texans entered the offseason with an obvious need along their offensive line. And credit to GM Nick Caserio. He traded Laramie Tunsil, their stalwart left tackle, who had an up-and-down season, to avoid future cap considerations and get a plethora of picks from the Commanders. Smart move, it seemed. They reshuffled the line. The problem is, though, they brought in a group of retread offensive linemen and then added a rookie left tackle in the second round. The rookie left tackle is playing like a rookie left tackle, and the rest of their line is playing like the free agents they were last offseason. Can this get better? I'm a little skeptical. You see, Houston's gone from one of the easier schedules in 2024 to one of the more difficult schedules this season. Only 2 other teams saw their schedule get more difficult between the past 2 years. And upcoming, they've got matchups against the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, and Chargers. All difficult games. There's probably only 2 or 3 gimme games left on the Texans' schedule. Now I want to turn it over to you guys. Since I think Houston is the best of the 0-3 teams, but I don't expect them to make the playoffs unless we see a season like 2018, when Houston became the first 0-3 team in years to start winless after 3 weeks and still make the playoffs, finishing 11-5. I think their division, particularly the Colts and Jaguars, are too good to let that happen this year. Now I'm going to turn it to you guys, Dianna and James. Which of the 0-3 teams do you think has the worst record at the end of the 2025 season and walks into next year's draft with the first overall pick?
Those Canadians are tough.
I love his black and white photos. I'll just say that.
Well,
the background
he just got
of all the
married
different
last
black and
year,
white
so
photos.
he
They're
has
also
like,
artsy. Yeah,
I know. He always looks so nice and rested, and then then the camera comes back to us, and we're just like, but look, he was fair, right? And I think if you heard him lay out his reasoning for Houston, you're shaking your head, going, he's right. And I think I'll just add to some of that argument. Let's say I want to give some Houston fans some hope here. I do think there's a lot of new there, right? You have a new OC. He mentioned all the new players on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, if you're on defense, you're frustrated about what this offense is not doing. They're not doing much for them. But they're the opposite of the Bucs right now. They're losing on these final plays of the season while the Bucs are winning.